Bo Xilai fights embezzlement and abuse of power charges. Divers search for a luggage case in Tin Shui Wai. And Washington considers options after chemical weapons attack in Syria.
Hello and a very good evening. Day 3 of the Bo Xilai trial, and the court heard details of the embezzlement allegations facing the former Chongqing party boss. His former right-hand man, Wang Lijun, also appeared in court today to testify on an abuse of power charge against Bo. Jameson Wong has all the details.
Bo Xilai is accused of embezzling 5 million yuan of government project funds when he served as Dalian party chief more than a decade ago. Wang Zhenggang, then director of the Dalian Municipal Bureau of Urban and Rural Planning and Land, testified in court today. Wang recalled after the completion of the project in 2002, he suggested to Bo the money be used by his wife Gu Kailai and their son Bo Guagua, who was attending secondary school overseas. Wang said Bo later made a phone call to his wife in front of him and said he was going to funnel 5 million yuan to his own family. The ousted Chongqing party boss hit back at Wang's testimony. He asked, "Is this in line with how an embezzler would think? Would I say something this sensitive over the phone?" And while he claimed he did not intend to embezzle the money, Bo did say he should bear some responsibility with the money ending up in his wife's bank account. "I was careless because that was public money. I let my attention wander," he said. "It was more than a decade ago. I don't really remember the details." Bo also spoke about how he and his wife became estranged. He said Gu took their son overseas in a fit of rage after he had been unfaithful. Bo is also on trial on suspicion of abuse of power. And testifying on that charge this afternoon, Wang Lijun, Bo's former right-hand man in Chongqing. The allegations relate to the murder of British businessman Neil Heywood in 2011 and a move by Wang to seek refuge at the U.S. consulate in Chengdu. Bo said today he's willing to bear responsibility for Wang's defection, but denied he was trying to protect his wife back then. Gu is now serving a suspended death sentence for Heywood's murder. Wang, the former Chongqing police chief, is serving a 15-year jail term for, among other things, covering up Heywood's murder. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
The United States has strengthened its naval presence in the eastern Mediterranean Sea to give President Barack Obama the option of an armed strike on Syria. A strike would be a response to an alleged chemical weapons attack which reportedly left hundreds dead near Damascus. The White House stressed no final decision has been made, with Obama treading a cautious line.
Ever since reports emerged of a suspected chemical attack which left scores, possibly hundreds dead earlier this week, the United States has been mulling its options. Washington has been very reluctant to get its hands dirty, having shed enough blood in Iraq and Afghanistan over the years. Up to now, it's preferred softer methods, like sanctions or tacit support in various forms for Syrian rebels. But with the horrific extent of Wednesday's catastrophe near Damascus becoming clearer by the day, the US seems to be considering more direct options, including the overt use of force. This might include strategic air and cruise missile strikes on Syrian army command posts. Pentagon officials say the US is strengthening its naval presence in the Mediterranean to give President Barack Obama a military option. But these same officials were quick to add that Obama had made no final decision and his administration is still verifying the details surrounding the incident.
Sometimes what we've seen is that folks will call for immediate action, jumping into stuff that does not turn out well.
Supporters of President Bashar al-Assad, including Russia, believe Syrian rebels may have had something to do with it. But America's allies suspect Syrian government forces.
I know that some people in the world would like to say this is some kind of conspiracy brought about by the opposition in Syria. I think the chances of that are vanishingly small. And so we do believe that this is a chemical attack by the Assad regime on a large scale. But we would like the United Nations to be able to assess that.
The UN's disarmament chief has arrived in Syria to push for access to the suspected chemical weapons attack site. Despite calls for the Syrian government to cooperate with the UN team, there has been little sign yet Damascus is willing to do just that.
Authorities in the Lebanese city of Tripoli are appealing for calm after a twin bomb attack last night left at least 42 people dead. The bombs hit 2 mosques just as Friday prayers were finishing in the largely Sunni city. It's being seen as more evidence Syria's civil war is spilling over into neighboring Lebanon. The explosions came roughly a week after a car bomb left many people dead in a Shiite neighborhood of Beirut. Both the Shiite Hezbollah group and Lebanese Sunni militants have sent fighters into Syria, with Hezbollah largely supporting President Assad, while the Sunnis have sided with the rebels. Supporters of ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi are trying to inject new life into their campaign following a recent government crackdown. Members of the Muslim Brotherhood have come up with a new hand salute with 4 fingers up. They hope that would help rally more support. Scores were killed in Rawah Square in Cairo earlier this month when authorities cracked down on those demanding Morsi's reinstatement. In Arabic, Rawah means fourth. And in the change of tactics, Morsi's supporters demonstrated in scattered and smaller rallies yesterday in moved aim at avoiding confrontations with the military. The opposition dubbed the day the Friday of Martyrs in memory of those killed in the government crackdown.
US Army psychiatrist Nidal Hasan has been found guilty of killing 13 people and wounding dozens more in a shooting rampage at a Texas military base in 2009. As NBC News reports, Hasan now faces the death penalty.
The verdict comes nearly 4 years after the shooting rampage at a Fort Hood Medical Processing Center. Major Nidal Hasan, who admitted he was the gunman, was found guilty of all 13 counts of premeditated murder and 32 counts of premeditated attempted murder. As the verdict was read in court, Hasan, acting as his own lawyer, showed no emotion. A sentencing hearing will begin Monday, and prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. 16 family members representing the murder victims will be allowed to address the court and Hasan.
I think it's also important that these victims finally have the opportunity to express to this jury the magnitude of the suffering that he inflicted on them and the way he destroyed their lives.
Hasan, paralyzed in the shootout, put on no defense case, but at sentencing, he is expected to speak. He has already said he switched sides to protect Islam and leaders of the Taliban.
There's a religious component to it, a political component to it, and in his case, a personal moral component to it.
During the trial, prosecutors presented 89 witnesses, many of whom gave graphic accounts of the bloody massacre. One told of hearing Army Private First Class Francesca Velez, who was pregnant, screaming, "My baby, my baby, my baby," before she was killed. Prosecutors say Hasan carefully planned the attack and fired nearly 150 rounds inside the Army Medical Building. If Hasan is sentenced to die and his case survives the lengthy appeals, legal experts say he could become the first soldier executed by the military in more than 50 years.
And a U.S. military court in Washington state has sentenced a soldier to life in prison without parole for killing 16 Afghan civilians last year. Some survivors of the attack who traveled from Afghanistan to America to testify against the soldier say the penalty is not heavy enough. Army prosecutors told the military tribunal that Staff Sergeant Robert Bales acted alone and with premeditation when he left his outpost in Kandahar province during the night of March the 11th last year. The court heard that Bales, armed with a pistol, a rifle and a grenade launcher, walked to 2 nearby villages and shot 22 people, mostly women and children. The 40-year-old veteran of 4 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan had earlier pleaded guilty to the killings in a deal that spared him the death penalty. Prior to his sentencing, Bell told the jury he had struggled with anger issues that worsened after his third military deployment. He apologized to the Afghan villagers and described the slaughter as an act of cowardice. The massacre marked the worst case of civilian deaths blamed on a rogue US soldier since the Vietnam War.
Koreans on both sides of the border can look forward to more family reunions after the two sides agreed last night to allow them to go ahead again. The reunions will be held from September 25th to 30th at the Mount Kumgang Resort in the north. The south and north will bring 100 people each. The final list of family members will be drawn up by the middle of September. The decision came after officials from the two sides met for talks yesterday about reuniting those separated by the Korean War. And still to come in the news. Controversy continues over lawmakers going on a sponsored trip. Phase 2 of North District bus route rearrangement. And Copenhagen's Little Mermaid turns 100.
Now we're back tonight with more local news. The Democratic Party has apologized again after two senior members took part in a sponsored trip to Europe, which has raised questions about whether there was a conflict of interest. The party chairwoman says it will make changes to ensure something like this doesn't happen again. Jada Silva reports.
After lots of apologies and donations, legislators are still going strong in saying their Cathay Pacific-sponsored junket to France was a mistake. Democratic Party legislator Albert Ho says the decision to accept Cathay's offer was the biggest mistake he has made in his political career. He described the offer as too generous, since he was also allowed to bring his wife along, which ultimately gave the public a terrible impression. Ho will donate $50,000 to charity to cover his wife's expenses. Party chairwoman Emily Lau apologized on behalf of the whole party. She said she can guarantee that the Democratic Party does not have double standards. The party's Central Committee agreed the two lawmakers had made an inappropriate judgment call. The committee will meet in early September to follow up on the issue. Yet another potential conflict of interest scandal, but this time the tables turned on the Pan-Democrats. Usually seen loudly holding those on the government side to account, it's likely going to take more than apologies or donations to resolve the public's dissatisfaction over the matter. But pro-establishment legislators were also on the flight. Elizabeth Quat, who only joined the France junket halfway, will make a donation at the value of the sponsored part of her trip. As for Ip Kwok Kim, also of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, he will not be donating because he believes he followed the rules. A position also taken by DAB chairman Tam Yu Chung, who says there is nothing to apologize for because disclosure regulations were followed. Legislator Kenneth Leung too says no rules were broken. He adds, however, they may need to be changed.
I would propose an immediate change in the reporting procedures on conflict of interest. And if there are any types of sponsored trips in future, I think the legislators should report it to the committee beforehand and get approval before starting the trip.
João da Silva, TVB News.
Police have arrested a taxi driver on suspicion of stealing two passengers' possessions. The driver allegedly threw a luggage case into a nullah in Tin Shui Wai after a dispute over taxi fares with the passengers. Rachel Leung reports.
Police sent divers to the nullah near Tian Hung Estate to look for a yellow luggage case that contains wine, a camera and some souvenirs. The total value of the luggage and its contents has been put at $60,000. It all began in the early hours of Tuesday when a Hong Kong man and a mainland traveler boarded a New Territories taxi at the airport after flying in from Thailand. They were going to the mainland by way of the Lok Ma Chau border checkpoint. When they arrived at the checkpoint, the two passengers did not have enough Hong Kong money to pay for the fare, and they had a dispute with the driver over the renminbi exchange rate. The driver then drove off with the passengers' luggage still in the vehicle's trunk. Police arrested the 34-year-old driver in Yuen Long on Thursday on suspicion of theft. The driver told the police that he had thrown the luggage into the Nilla in Tin Shui Wai without taking anything out of it. According to the law, taxi drivers must charge their passengers according to the meter reading, and the fare payment must be made in Hong Kong currency. Rachel Lang, TVB News.
A new committee tasked with developing the recycling industry has started discussing ways to offer more support to the trade. As Stephanie Choi reports, debate still rages over government plans to expand the city's landfills.
The government steering committee to promote the sustainable development of the recycling industry met yesterday to review Hong Kong's recycling operation and government support for the industry.
We would like to set up a time for us to go and reach out to people who are in the recycling business, people who are thought leaders in this area, to gather views about how we should proceed.
In addition to the target of reducing 40% of waste disposal by 2022, the committee also promised to come up with principles relating to subsidies given to the recycling industry. After a survey showed that almost 60% of respondents supported the expansion of 3 existing landfills, Low has not ruled out using the results to their advantage in applying for funding from LegCo. But some say expanding the landfills is not the way to go.
We are not in a talking stage. We should have action to proceed those recycling industry.
Fong suggested that the government should spend more resources on creating green jobs to facilitate recycling. This would be money well spent, she said, instead of wasting it on the landfills. She also voiced support for plans to build an offshore incinerator. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Council of Social Service is calling on the government to look beyond the setting of a poverty line to help 1.16 million people living in poverty in Hong Kong. It wants the authorities to do research on these households' basic needs and create a subsidy scheme for working poor families with children. The city's first official poverty line will be set next month, expected to be at half the median household income. But a member of the Commission on Poverty said that may not be enough to help the poor meet their basic family needs.
The government should also carry out this kind of study, the basic needs study, so that they could know whether the future official poverty line is still meaningful, is still adequate to meet basic needs of an average family. It could inform the government whether they should revise the benefit level, and whether they should improve the eligibility criteria.
Choi, who will become the chief executive of the Council of Social Service, said the government last conducted such a study 17 years ago. The council's own studies showed that families living in poverty need slightly more money than those of the median household income level to satisfy their basic needs. It has proposed the creation of a low-income supplement of $1,600 to $3,230 a month for working poor households with children.
Most of those living in a working poor family, their income are actually between 40% and 50% of the median household income. That means if we give them about 10% of median household income, we will be able to lift most of these working poor family above the poverty line.
The council said the proposed subsidy scheme is expected to benefit 740,000 people living in poverty at an annual cost of less than $5 million for the government. The second phase of a scheme involving the rearrangement of bus routes in North District took effect today. It covers 10 routes. Some passengers we talked to today said some of the new express lines got them to the urban areas a lot quicker. KMB has also offered interchange discounts for passengers who can now save up to $6.50 per journey. The third and final phase of the scheme will be implemented on the 7th of next month, focusing on routes between North District and Hong Kong Island. All right, Tony, over to you for sports.
That's right. We've got baseball and a bit of Formula One preview and EPL preview as well. So let's get started. And Japan's Daisuke Matsuzaka made his return to the major leagues. The one-time pitching sensation is now with the New York Mets. However, as James Wong shows us, Daisuke didn't have an easy time against Detroit's big hitters.
Daisuke's return to the major league started off well as he got Detroit's Austin Jackson looking. Jackson was the first big league hitter Matsuzaka had faced this season. The 32-year-old was with the Cleveland Indians AAA team before the Mets signed him this week.
Hunter drills one to deep left field. Back goes Young for a walk.
But the very next batter, Torrey Hunter, went deep against the former World Series champion with the Boston Red Sox.
Anything to hit. And he hits it deep to left, right down the line, hooking toward the pole. Home run. Wow.
Miguel Cabrera also blasted a 3-run homer in the second, his 41st of the season. The Tigers won the game 6-1. The line on Daisuke, 5 innings, 5 runs, and 4 strikeouts. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Well, Formula One is back this week after the summer break, and so far Red Bull has looked impressive ahead of the Belgium Grand Prix. 3-time defending champion Sebastian Vettel posted the fastest times in practice. He was challenged by teammate Mark Webber. Vettel has 4 wins this season and leads the Drivers' Championship by 38 points over Kimi Räikkönen of Lotus. Ferrari's Fernando Alonso is in 3rd place, 39 points behind the German. Let's move on to golf. An American Matt Kuchar has the lead at the first PGA Tour playoff event in New Jersey. Kuchar stood at 10 under par overall. He was 5 under on his round after 13 holes on Friday, but play was suspended due to darkness. Tiger Woods was 5 back. He'll also be back today to finish up his second round. 4 tournaments will determine the champion and winner of a $10 million bonus. In football, and there's still no movement in Chelsea's efforts to land Manchester United striker Wayne Rooney. Meanwhile, United boss David Moyes has had kind words for his counterpart Jose Mourinho ahead of their big clash on Monday.
I really like Jose. I think he's probably one of the new modern era managers, and he's got great success. So I've not seen him for a long time, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing him back at Old Trafford.
And finally for tonight, the iconic Little Mermaid statue in Copenhagen has marked its 100th birthday, with Denmark and admirers around the world holding a big bash to celebrate. There was a party atmosphere in the Danish capital as people hung out by the famous statue. Others chose to take part in a mermaid swim nearby. The 165-centimetre tall bronze sculpture was commissioned in 1909 by the founder of the Carlsberg Brewery, Carl Jacobsen. He reportedly did it after seeing a ballet performance of The Little Mermaid based on Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale.
It's one of my most favourite fairy tales, I think, when I was a little kid.
Actually, growing up, it was my favourite, definitely.
But very sad.
And that's the news for tonight.
Good night.
Good evening. We had showers and thunderstorms, then some sunny intervals today. At 5 p.m., an area of low pressure over southwestern China brought an active southwesterly airstream to the South China coast. Today's temperatures ranged from 25.7 to 29.8 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 78 to 96%. The current temperature is now standing at 29 degrees Celsius with the relative humidity at 82%. 50.8 millimeters of rain has been recorded since midnight. So, Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? We'll have sunny periods and a few showers tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 27 to 32 degrees. It will be mainly fine and hot in the following few days. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 10 to 75, and the air pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 10. And now to the latest global weather update. Rain in Shanghai, showers in Taipei, cloudy in Xiamen. Thunderstorms in Guangzhou, showers in Macau and Chengdu. Sunny in Beijing, cloudy in Seoul and Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Showers in Kuala Lumpur, bright in Singapore, cloudy in Jakarta. Bright in New Delhi and Karachi, showers in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo and Nairobi. Sunny in Brisbane and Sydney, bright in Melbourne, showers in Auckland. Cloudy in Toronto, sunny in New York. Showers in Vancouver, bright in San Francisco, sunny in Los Angeles. Showers in London, Paris, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a lovely evening.